mental insane asylum. So Jorge is hosting an event out of San Antonio, and I'd encourage, everybody to go to that. He said, when we were out in Annapolis, he said, 2020 ought to be the year of action vision. Like 2020 vision, well, it's kind of cute. Okay, yeah, it makes sense. But what is 2020 action vision? And so, in EC2, like what I've realized with 5 grandkids is that I am totally okay teaching them good choices, good consequences. It's so cute. They can't even put together, seriously, my 3 granddaughters are all 2.5. They cannot put together fully complete sentences yet. But they understand the concept. If you make a good choice, you're going to make a good consequence. When my one granddaughter was like, I don't know, like probably maybe 2 or something, and I had a date night with her. We were watching Strawberry Shortcake, went to put the DVD in, and there were, popsicle sticks in the DVD, which as a grandfather, I thought was the coolest thing. Like, I'm thinking, this is so awesome. Like, of course, where else would you put popsicle sticks? So I said, honey, Lily, sweetheart, honey, you can't put popsicle sticks in the DVD or we can't watch, Strawberry Shortcake, sweetheart. I said, honey, that's a bad choice. And she looks at me with her big blue eyes. And she's like, Grandpa, bad choices, bad consies. So I love teaching 2, 3, even 5 and 7-year-old boys. Like grandsons. Like, I love teaching them, but the 7-year-old, he's 7. He should be picking this up. And so I hate teaching adults that, though. Hate it. Like, it makes no sense why you should have to teach an adult. You make a good choice, you're going to have a good consequence. You make a bad choice, I hate teaching adults things that they should know. And that's what EC2 is all about. Like Tom was mentioning, where, somebody wanted to have coaching and mentoring from him, help. And Tom said, yeah, we can do it at, 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock in the morning. And the guy says, that's awful early. Okay, now, my 5-year-old grandson or my 7-year-old grandson, I can see teaching them, listen, the early bird gets the worm. Like, I can see teaching them, listen, if you want to do this, you got to get up. 20, 30, 40-year-olds, I can't see teaching them that kind of stuff. And the truth is, adults are the clue, and they think they're smart, and they're not. And so, is that a caring thing to say, Mark? Well, depending on what dimension you're in. So people are hurting themselves like they're wounded and they're shooting themselves in the other foot. Questions, thoughts, anyone? Rosanna, good to have you on. Business Sense from Everyday Moms. Tom asked you a few weeks ago how you're progressing on that. You probably haven't done anything because you have 7 kids. It's the holidays. You have 5 grandkids. But I'm sure that your kids and grandkids and their, 4 spouses, I'm sure they're all coming in and helping you out. Oh, look at that. There's noise in the background. That's awesome. How are you coming along on that book? Because Tom, he wants to be the first one to read it. How are you progressing on Business Sense from Everyday Moms?
Well, I'm working on it on Sundays. I also talked with my Awesome Women group yesterday about setting deadlines and have them send me little hints as far as what they thought women learn in the business area. So I've got some work done there. I also have this awesome businessman that has quite a bit of understanding of business and women, and he's just awesome, and he's helping me go ahead and get some understanding how to bridge the gap between the two.
Interesting.
So that's where I'm at right now.
Interesting. Any thoughts on today's lesson?
Well, I was thinking about that when you were talking. I'm like, okay, how do you go ahead and have business, a bunch of people in the same area that all have different personalities? And I thought, well, same as in families as it is in the workplace. And how do you combine all of those together to have everybody work together and get things accomplished?
So for those that might be listening that don't know, Rosanna is my wife of 35 years. So we have 7 kids. How much more complex is our life now that all the kids have moved out of the house, Rosanna, and they're all in relationships, and 4 of the 7 are married? How much more complex is our life now than it was, let's say 10 years ago when we had, 4 teenagers and 7 kids at home?
I think it's a lot more complex.
And why?
It seems to be,
Go ahead.
Well, because you bring in maybe things that when they grew up, how they felt about things, and then they start sharing it with sisters and brothers that maybe the significant other didn't understand, and then there becomes this maybe more misunderstandings. Like yesterday I had, 5 of my kids in the house, and yeah, it heightens. Plus, they're adults now, so they don't quite do well at listening. Kind of like people in the workplace, they don't listen. They think, well, I'm an adult. I don't have to listen to those people that are talking to me. So we're working on the caring aspect here.
Any questions for Rosanna or I?
So what do you do?
A lot. This is why Nicole loves me so much. She's like, the guy's a genius. Like, he always simplifies everything into so much simplicity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he says a lot to me too, Nicole. So, what are you thinking today? A lot. What do you think we should do? A lot. How should we do it? A lot. Yeah. He simplifies it really well. What do you mean?
But let's be fair, right?
Breaking it down.
Let's be fair. When I go ahead and, start sharing, like, not a lot, but just a little bit, often then what happens?
It comes overwhelming to the person who's listening.
Even you of 35 years?
Oh, yeah.
Other questions?
Yes, Rosanna, what part of your personality wants to create tremendous pain for Mark in terms of the dysfunctions of the quadrants? Because there's got to be one. I can't be the only one that seriously wants to lovingly smack. Stop it. Slow down. Oh, my God, my brain's melting.
That would be the amiable.
There you go. Okay. See, Mark, it does work. You can reverse it. Tell me about your anger. Oh, my God, you're amiable. Perfect.
Well, he says he controls how many times I hit him in a day. Yeah.
That's awesome.
So,
Other questions?
Most of the time it's lovingly and caringly, of course.
Of course. Other questions or thoughts?
I don't have any. I think I really enjoy your insight into things, and I think that has helped us in our marriage throughout the years. And even in working with the adult children, understanding the personality. If I didn't understand the personality, I think I'd go crazy.
Cool. Other thoughts or questions?
Tom and Peter thinking?
I'm writing notes, believe it or not. I'm thinking a lot. I'm thinking of distillation into bite sizes. That's what I'm thinking.
Tom? Oops, yeah, Tom's still on. Tom, what are you thinking? If you're talking, you're on mute. Tom may be in a place he's not able to share. Other thoughts or questions?
Well, so I'd like to go back to that Nicole's original question mark of how do you apply all of this, knowing each personality's strengths or weaknesses. So obviously in the recruiting piece, you're searching then for those types of personalities to fit in their strengths.
Not necessarily.
Okay. Well, okay, so my question is less in the recruiting and more in when you have a current team, if you have someone who is in a position that is in their weaker areas, what do you do? How do you go about addressing that, especially if it's with someone who is less aware of that?
Get them to enroll into EC2. You're paying them, thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars a year. If they're not willing to invest $20 a month back into themselves, you know what? Maybe they're not the right person. So get EC2 to fix them. Seriously. I'm dead serious. You just get EC2 to fix them, because EC2 will fix people. It'll help them to understand they're not that smart. That's the first thing. Like, people think they're so smart. They're not. They just aren't. But until they realize, I'm not that smart. So scientists thought they were really smart. They thought they had figured out things. Yep, we understand this universe stuff. Yeah, we got it figured out. We understand this. Okay. And then they hit quantum, physics, and holy cow, I thought we had it figured out. And it's not that physics is wrong, but there's another whole level. And so the first thing is to get people into a humble state, because that's when we learn. First thing is to realize we're not that smart. And in the world today, the way you seduce the masses, my son-in-law helped to write a book, and it's The Art of Seduction of the Masses. It's how big everything seduces the masses. Big government, big business, big education, even big religion, big pharma, big everything seduces the masses in saying, because we have a group of people, we have experts. You can trust these experts because they're experts. And so what we want you to do is trust your money to us, trust your life, your time, your 70s, time, talents, treasure, trust, truth, temple, and thought. Trust everything to us because we're big, and we know what's best for you. It's like, well, that's one way to think about it. But the experts is so hilarious to me, and how stupid experts are and how frequently they're wrong about the things they're expert in. And when they're wrong, then they go ahead and they still claim to be experts. You were just wrong in something major. How are you an expert? Well, now I've studied it further, and now I understand why I was wrong. That's not an expert. That's a child. And so helping people, Elise, to understand, to continue to, like the military does this really well, it breaks people down, at least to some degree. Breaks people down and says, listen, you're not that strong, you're not that tough, you're not that amazing. The NFL, pro sports, does a really good job of that. Where it's like, And the best athletes in the world, they know they're not that good. They know that they could do better, which continues to keep them at the top of their game, potentially their entire career. So in answer to Nicole's question and Elise's question, it's GTing it. It's the golden triangle in the 530 grid. So you identify your hiring prospects, you develop and deliver a message, then you track 100% of the leads, then you ask key questions, and then you either go ahead, depending on how they answer those questions, you either present a solution, you go to box 8. So you go to box 8, and you either present a solution if they're ready for that solution. If they're not ready for that solution, then you go ahead and take it to box 5, a strategic strike. And then you go ahead and, yep.
And this is going to sound crazy, but anytime I did any hiring of any consequence, I did more research on. First of all, I did a lot of research on the possible candidates who were out there. Then I did a lot of research on how those candidates actually worked. And then when I had the opportunity to talk with them, I sold the company to them based on how their talents would fit into it. And I had more success that way than any other approach that I ever took.
So I've known Tom for, I think it's been 15 years-ish. And in those 15 years, Tom's never told me what he just told me now. He's never brought it up. So thank you, Nicole, and thank you, Elise. Hope you can both, meet Tom in person, maybe in San Antonio. I wish others could go ahead and see, or could hear what I heard Tom just say.
I think too often people put a ad out or work with an agency, and they just put job description types of things, and then resumes come in, and then they kind of sort through that, or somebody sorts through it, especially if it's a C-level type of hire. And even with real estate agents, most real estate companies will take anybody that's really wanting to come on board with them. But to me, it had to be who fit my culture and my core beliefs, and then let's talk about how you do business, and then let me show you what I have to offer you that could help you at the bare minimum maintain what you're currently doing and hopefully increase it as we go forward. And if that works, then we can talk about the money at the last.
Yeah, what Tom says resonates with me. I can't say I was very scientific about it, but then I wasn't intimately involved in recruiting unless it was a higher level of management, at least not in the recent past. But I think that I'm going to try and draw the parallel of what you're sharing, Mark, and what Tom just shared, because I think the key in Tom's ability to do that is based on a lot of the factors that he's learned informally that you're covering, right? Because it's that at least when I'm recruiting, when I get the chance to interview people, I'm just looking for people that have energy and an open mind, because then I know they can do it. They can do anything. It's a bit like you describing what the military does, right? Except if people have an open mind and they have a thirst for learning and growing, then you can do just about anything with them, whether they're coming in at the bottom, the middle, or the top. And we're in the process of, with my businesses at the moment. I mean, we've got 90 people in the first company. That's going to triple over the next 2 years. or 18 months. And we use different methods for recruiting. It's not just fishing through resumes. We use a company called Talent Plus out of Omaha for profiling and so on. But I still like, in total, the concepts and the visibility of all the information you've shared and I've been part of over the last 2 years. It's a question of how you turn it into a process for recruiting, retaining, and training that adds value outside of the scope of what would be typical sales training. So you can call that the more traditional physics version versus the quantum version, which is more of how you leverage all the variables, right, of personalities, how people do what they do, when they do it, and why they do it. And that to me is the challenge, because I'd love to incorporate a process or a systematic process for that uses the essence of personality masteries for identifying people, but also then the follow-on to training them. And when I use the word training in this context, it's teaching people how to leverage and broaden those 4 quadrants and recognize them in others, because whether it's with customers, prospects, servicing, or whether it's associates in the business, then all this quantum thinking as part of that, at least from a work standpoint, but it carries over into personal life too, becomes very powerful. But it's getting it into an order where you can building blocks where you can invest in that, from recruiting to onboarding and then to sustainable people skill management.
Well, I think I have a question, because how do you build quantum systems when you don't have people that have quantum thinking?
I think the only ones, by and large, Nicole, I think the only ones that have quantum are children. And so I don't know if it's life, if it's the educational system, if it's their parents, if it's adults, I don't know, or some combination of all of that, somehow train the quantum out of the kids.
Yeah, exactly. That absolutely is true, Mark. We've talked about this before in terms of, I think it's at everybody. It's the truth. It's just subdued or suppressed because of all of the things you just described as you go through, and then you go into a corporate environment and find the same thing, the rules, regulations, policy, right? Unless you've got somebody that's liberating that, or can liberate it in a somewhat contained way, because it can be very risky, right? It's very unknown, very variable. It can be predictably good if managed well, or it can be predictably bad if not managed well, if unleashed. I mean, that's the reality.
So I think the engineered clarity is going to be the thing that awakens employees, people all around the world, because when you go into engineered clarity, the community, it's a whole different way of thinking. So it's a whole different way of thinking and being able to go through and process things And because the employee, like an employer can't pay for his or her employees. Like you can't, an employer can't go ahead if they had 100 employees, they can't say we want all of our employees to go on EC2. And we're going to pay for it. Life Masteries won't allow it. I can't even pay for my own grandkids. So my 7-year-old and my 5-year-old, I want them in EC2. And I'll pay for it. Like it's $20 a month per person. I'll pay for that. That's worth it. I can't do it. So what I have to do is I have to go ahead and help my 7-year-old grandson start a company where he can earn $20 a month, and then he can invest that into EC2. He has to make the investment. I can't, and his parents can't. Nobody can pay for him. He has to go ahead and figure out how to earn the money and then invest it. And so now an employer can go ahead and say to an employee, listen, okay, so we've negotiated your pay. You're making $100,000 a year. Oh, one other thing. So you're going to accept that offer? Yes. Okay. One other thing that we require is there is one other piece. And this piece it's called EC2. And so what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and give you a up to a $40 a month bonus. $20 a month is work that you do, and then $20 a month is based on the results that you get. Now the condition is that, and you're going to get to set the goals, you're going to get to do all of it. You determine the goals, and you have to invest that first $20 that you're going to get, it's doing your job, into EC2. You have to become a member of EC2, but you have to pay for it. The company can't. It's the rules. The company can't pay, but we have a $40 a month bonus program that you can make 100% return on your investment. Now, if you think in a linear process, what's going to be more motivating to people? $100,000 a year income, or $240 to $480. So less than $500 a month. Or $500 a year. What's going to motivate people more? $100,000 salary or $20 a month bonus?
Depends on the content.
Yeah. Depends on where they're at in life.
See, this is something that probably it's going to be the $20. It just will. They'll be more motivated by that. See, this is something that probably most of our parents taught us. Like, my parents didn't buy me a car. They didn't buy me anything. Like, if I wanted to, because they said, if you go ahead and pay for your own car, Mark, you're going to go ahead and value it more. If you pay for your own college education, you're going to value it more. And so my parents understood something that the experts don't understand. And that is, when you go ahead and spend your own money on something, then you don't have entitlement because you're paying for it and you get a return. Is the employee more focused on getting a return on that $20 they invest, or are they more focused on getting a return on the $100,000 that the company? They are focused in on getting a return on their own money. Because people, I never understood this, but I do now, people are more focused on getting a return on their own money than they are on getting a return for somebody else's money. Which I guess makes sense, but it doesn't.
That's why they give options.
Right. Right. It's what it puzzled me for years, where I've seen people that are making $100,000 a year, and they get involved in MLMs, multi-level marketing, and I'm like, huh. And then they go ahead. And they invest all of this energy into the MLM that they're not making any money on. They're actually spending money. And it's like, it almost reminds me of people who, it's like, I've heard, like my dad being a pastor, I don't know if my dad said it or somebody else said it, it's like when somebody has an affair, it's like if you poured as much money into, or much time into your wife as you did the person you're having an affair with, you'd have an amazing relationship with your wife. If you poured as much money, if you poured as much time into your career as you do into the MLM or whatever you're doing, if you poured as much time into that, you would have a far more successful career. You'd be claiming unclaimed territory. And so this is the magic. This is how I believe, in 9 years of studying life masteries and how they do it, their secrets, is an EVA, only 14% of the people make it through the certification. Right now, there's probably a 2 to 3 month waiting list. It's so powerful. In the past, there used to be a 7-month waiting list. And they came back because we use a lot of EVAs and our clients use a lot of EVAs. And they say, Mark, there's a 7-month waiting list. I'm like, yep. And they're like, we're really sorry. I'm like, nope, I understand. They said, do you want us to lower the requirements? I'm like, not a chance. I'll wait a year. And then what they do is when somebody comes on board, they have to go through, an EVA has to go through 50 hours of training that they don't get paid anything for it. So they have to invest their own time, their own 7 T's, time, talent, treasure, trust, truth, tempo, and thought. They have to go through and do all of that. So what it does is it trains them almost from birth, like birth and starting their own company. And then, like their whole process, what they're doing is they're taking adults that have never owned their own company, and they're teaching them how to think like entrepreneurs. And so this is why 5-6 years ago when they said, Mark, why don't you talk to all the smart people and bring it into employees? You guys don't understand. You don't understand. It's not that easy. It's very, very difficult. So just in the last year, with the leverage course that Life Masteries has, and then the psychology of people, those 2 courses and all of the work, hundreds, thousands of hours of investment in the work, and the challenging from, Peter and Tom and Paul and others, Nicole and others, that's the thing that's created the pressure. Like, Peter was a pain in the butt, and I loved it. It's like, simplified, and it's like, now it's simplified with this. But when you start going down and drilling in, like in box 2, like there's a sticky messages course. It's, you want to learn how to go ahead and write copy. It took me 49 weeks to teach that 7-week course. It's so much work. Like Life Masteries Institute courses are different than any other courses I've ever gone through in my life. There's a PCS course, box 5. Nicole went through, I think it was box 12, the Magic Seed System with Tanglewood when she was a teenager. And I remember talking, what's that?
And sticky messages.
And sticky messages, yeah. But I think Magic Seed was the first one, right? Well,
no, I think it was sticky messages.
Oh, was it? Okay, sticky messages. So I remember when she went through the very first course, and I talked to the owner, the founder of the company, Alan Stein, and I said, Alan, what do you want? What do you want Nicole to go ahead and get from, the sticky messages course? And he just casually said, I want it to change the entire culture of the entire company. I remember thinking, what? You can't put one teenager through a course. She was an intern at the time. I'm thinking, You can't put one teenager through a course and have it change your entire culture. That's unrealistic. That's way too high expectation. Like, there's all this drama going on inside of me. I'm like, he's insane. But it's like he really believes it. Maybe it's true. And what was that, Nicole, 4 or 5 years ago?
5 years.
5 years, yeah. So that's about the time that Life Mastery started putting heavy pressure on me and other people in the network to say, figure out how to take it into employees, and EC2 does it. And it's $20 a month per person, and the person has to invest their own money. So then they're going to take it serious. They're not going to say, oh, this is one more thing the company's just, doing. You get it at the front end, and when they come on, like, that's a part of it. Like, if they're not willing to do that, well, that's a good indication. They have no problem you investing tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars into them. That's expected. But when you ask them to invest $20 into themselves, they won't do it. That reveals maybe all you need to know.
Hey, Mark?
Yep.
A little confused by that statement, because you asked originally, if I have two things, on you posted as linear thinking, $100,000 job, what are you going to gravitate more towards? And I said 100,000.
What's going to motivate you more?
Well, I still think the 100,000, if you're linear thinking, I think if you get to quantum thinking, and I could be wrong here, then it makes a difference, because I struggled with, I'm going to bonus you. It's like fake money. So here's what it is, Paul. Here's how it works. What it does is it takes somebody who's a linear thinker and it turns them into a quantum thinker. It's not, when somebody invests the $20, they're not a quantum thinker. Yet. But I've seen EC2, like Cheryl, she's in accounting with Tanglewood, and she just invested into EC2. She just jumped on, and she has had struggles her entire life with goal setting. And I think within a week of her being on EC2, she will go ahead and be an amazing goal setter within a week. Like, there's something magical about putting your own money into it. There's something magical about the group and how it's structured. Like, you're not going to, or not structured, like you're not going to be babysat. So people will go on, and some will play around, some won't do anything, but it's only $20 a month. But when they're ready to do something, the pieces are there, or if the pieces aren't there, they can very quickly be put there from the community. So if somebody's struggling with depression and there's not resources, the community can quickly put together something for depression. If somebody's struggling with teenage kids that are cutting themselves, like, the community can put together resources that will do self-healing, and it's not just on yourself, it's not only yourself, it's the community, it's people who have been through it, or people who are going through it and working together on it. Make sense? Absolutely. Follow-up question?
Yep.
Kind of towards, I guess this is for Peter, just curious, and this was my aha moment today. So way back when, I studied a lot on hiring and the skill set, the art and skill, and one of the people I worked with identified salespeople. Top salespeople share very, very similar personality characteristics, and you hire for personality, which is kind of what I heard Tom and Peter both kind of allude to, not skill set. Skills can be taught, personalities can't. And then the epiphany was, because the personality mastery kind of is that. So now I'm really curious how that ties into the personalities of top performers. Do they share the same quadrant or whatever? So just an interesting side thought. And I just wanted your guys' opinion. Do you believe that to be true? Higher for personality.
Peter?
Yeah, look, yes is the short answer. Yes, I do. Do companies I've worked for do that in general? No. But I'd also say it's horses for courses. If you're, it depends if you're maintaining a business, growing a business, or saving a business, because there are times where you don't want that same kind of personality that is looking for growth. If you're matching them in as a leader or manager or a line worker, depending on the circumstance, right? So, but generally speaking, no, people don't hire. I've never come across anybody that hires for personality. And right now, but we're new in that sense with business. We're not. We're more traditional in the format for hiring in terms of the typical type of testing that you would do. And I don't think it's safe, but it also means you get conservative and in some instances, or in a lot of instances, poor fit, because they don't have the personality they need for the job that's being recruited for.
Then why not move to a recruiting model that incorporates personality? And not
I
necessarily
agree.
just the quadrant.
And look, and there's very few of them around. That's part of my interest in figuring out how you can incorporate that into what is largely a very kind of traditional system or processes that people have, including us right now.
So,
or Peter, for a small price, I'm willing to come in as a consultant and help you guys develop a system and a process for incorporating personalities into your workplace.
Well, we can talk.
So it would be good to go ahead and probably have an offline conversation with the three of us, and so Elise can probably get that scheduled, or Emily could get that scheduled. In the quantum world, again, everything's yes and no. Everything's simple, everything's complicated, and so in the quantum world, that's just what it is. So if somebody were to ask me, Mark, do you think people ought to hire based on personality? I would say, no. Would I say, no, I don't think so. Would I say anybody that you hire, should you consider their personality? I say absolutely, without question. Personality is not good or bad. Like, it's just, there's good and bad, strengths and weaknesses in that. But character, that's something that I would hire for. Because what Peter's done is he's done the opposite of what I've done. He's gone big company, big worldwide company, BMW, Rolls-Royce. I've done small. I've started my own company. So we've come at it from totally opposite directions business-wise. Peter is deep expressive, and he's learned the analytic and the driver. I'm deep analytic driver analytic, and I've learned the expressive and the amiable. So what I heard today from Peter was something I've never heard from him before. I mean, it was like he resonates with my energy, even though he and I are 180-degree different personality. He knows the value of my personality, and he values that, and he can do that, although he probably doesn't like to. I know the value of his personality, and I can do his personality even though I don't like to. And so you can actually train in personalities, so when I spent 2 years as an amiable, 3 years as expressive, the 1 year in drama, there's a part of me that didn't like it, but there's a part of me that totally enjoyed it because I was growing so much, learning so much, seeing so many things that I'd never seen before. And so it is personalities, but it's far, far, far more advanced than personalities. This is why it's so hard. This is why having stepchildren or foster children in so many ways is so much more difficult than your own children, because or having grandchildren that are not close. And so, to you, proximity-wise, you don't see them every day. And so it's going in and helping people to learn at a very core level, which is partly their personality, but is partly their entire belief system. It's helping people to see that what you believe to be true, well, it is true, but it's not true for the reasons you think it is. And when you help people to learn how to do that, any personality can succeed in any role. You want to really, like Peter said earlier, to really get things humming, you want people in the thing that they love to do. Brianne, one of the first EVA, I think she's the third EVA we hired, second or third EVA we contracted with, not hired, we contracted with. She said to me, hey, Mark, I'm not real big on phone calls. I don't know that I do a really good job at it. So I'm willing to do it, though, because that's what EVAs are trained to do. I'm willing to do it. But, just keep that, if you can. And within 3 to 4 months, we had switched her, brought another EVA in to do that, and then she switched over to where now she's overseeing all of the management, all the leadership, all the development. She tracks, it's just perfect for her. And she's a 55-55. So it's teaching people how to change the way they're thinking. They think they've been successful because of how they think, which is true. What they don't realize is they could be doing a lot more. They see that, feel that, sense that on a subconscious basis, but they do not know how to think differently. They're not willing to trust the integrity of the system to think differently. And until they test the system, and when they test the system and they find out that it works, it's like, whoa, this is really cool to be wrong. Because that's when life is so exciting, is when we thought something to be true, we knew it was true, it became not true, and we learned something, and we made a breakthrough to another whole dimension in our business, in our life, in relationships, and everything. That's when it becomes exciting. So next week, we're going to be going through next step, turning learning into earning. It's the grand finale of everything, bringing this all together. Be exciting. Connect with your art mentor. Connect with your 2 art buddies. And always remember, we can accomplish so much more together than we ever could on our own. Have an amazing day. Bye-bye.